Hey guys, it's Emily Ray. Today's class is all about taking things a little bit slower and learning how to feel the core and its relationship to the pelvic floor and vice versa. So it's a nice little flow. It'll work you kind of deeply, and I want you to pay attention to really relaxing your muscles at the end. So take a pose as long as you like at the end. Don't feel like you have to end just because the video ends. I want to make sure that you spend plenty of time consciously, so making the conscious choice to deeply relax those muscles. So you're thinking about the pelvic floor and you're thinking, relax. All right, I hope you enjoy it. All right, we're gonna start on hands and knees. So bring the wrist underneath of the shoulders and the knees roughly underneath of the hips. We don't need to obsess about it, but just kind of get them in place. Start here with some organic movement and some organic breathing. So we're gonna start with a nice exhale and round that spine. Let the head round towards the floor. And then inhale and lift the tailbone, lift the crown of the head. So on the exhale, when we bring that tailbone down, we're shortening our pelvic floor. We're bringing our pelvis into a posterior tilt. And when we inhale, we lift the tailbone, we widen the sitting bones, and we bring the pelvic floor into a stretch. So twice more, just thinking about how on the exhale, we shorten that pelvic floor. You can visualize a diamond shape at the bottom of the pelvis shortening. And on the in-breath, we lift the tailbone and widen that pelvic floor. Nice long breath in, and then go ahead and come to neutral, but walk the fingertips way out. We're gonna take it into puppy dog pose. So the palms are lifted. There's a slight lift through the armpits, a little lift through the low belly. So we hug that front body in. We create just a little bit of lift so the back body feels supported enough to expand. I want you to think about the pelvis reaching way back. And then as you breathe, feel the spine lengthening. So the back ribs, the bottom of the back ribs, are gonna draw up and away from the top of the hips. We're gonna bring lots of space into the lower back, and then just feel that spaciousness move all the way up into the base of the skull, where the palate, the top of the mouth, is reaching forward like the crown of the head, reaching forward. And then take it all the way back and down, child's pose. Take a deep exhale right here. Let all the tissues completely soften. And then come on back up to hands and knees. And we'll stretch into the wrist before we add some more pressure there. So we're gonna turn the right fingers all the way out and around, or stopping wherever you need to. Keep contact with the pads of the fingers. Let the hips shift back just a little and feel that stretch move up into the wrist, into the forearm, maybe even up into the shoulder or wherever else you're feeling it. Just breathe into it. Don't go too far. Just find your edge. Explore new parts of the body. And then bring that right hand all the way around. Left hand's gonna do the same, so see how far you can go. Maybe you can go all the way around. Press into the pads of the fingers. Maybe the hips shift back, maybe not. Just see how you're feeling. Notice if any part of you is contracting or resisting, like any part of the muscles, or even mentally, if you feel like you're pulling away, and see if you can just maybe soften into the feeling, into the intensity. And if you have to lessen the stretch over time, that's welcome. Go ahead and do that. So now we do have the knees underneath of the hips. Now I'm gonna have you tuck the toes underneath of the heels. So the feet are spreading, and why don't we stretch deep into those feet? So go ahead and sit the hips back, spread the feet kind of wide, and then even press the pads of the toes into the floor as you're widening. Now some people are gonna be able to lean all the way back, and others are just gonna have their hands on the floor. Wherever you are is completely welcome. So just be right where you are today. Even in the feet, feel like the arches are lengthening out, like the ball and the heel are drawing away from one another. So we're really waking up those feet, waking up connection and contact. And then we'll come forward and bring the wrists underneath of the shoulders. If that's feeling like a little too much pressure, then take a moment to bring the wrists forward of the shoulders. See if that helps. You could also try putting pressure on fists instead. See if that feels better. For our purposes, I'm going to have you bring the palms down if you can. We're going to keep the creases of the wrist parallel to the front edge of the mat. And we have a lot of energy running into the base of the first finger, base of the thumb. So in a certain way, we're kind of pressing that floor away so you can feel the chest muscles turn on, and then that upper back feels nice and supported. And then we're going to tuck those toes underneath, and then feel your navel center draw up and in towards the spine. Not in a clenchy way, just in a way to create support for the lower back. So once we have all of that in place and we're hugging that front body in to support the back body, see if you can press into hands and toes and hover those knees off of the ground, but keep the breath soft. So breathing deeply, even in the intensity, is going to be the #1 priority for this work. And then we'll bring those knees down. Take that right leg straight back, bring it to hip height. So that right hip sometimes wants to fly up to the sky, but I want you to keep it right at hip height. We're going to continue that work, pressing the floor away, keeping the navel center tone, even feeling the front ribs hug up and in, depending on your body. If you have a tendency to flare those ribs out, I want you to keep the ribs tucked in so the back stays nice and long. And then we have this core support. You might even feel that navel center draw up and in like you're going to zip up your jeans from last year. So it's like they're just a little bit snug. And then take a big breath in and exhale. Draw that right knee towards the forehead. And then as you do that, you can round the spine. And then inhale, we're going to take it back. Now watch the back body, because again, sometimes that right hip wants to fly way up to the sky. Exhale, draw that right knee in. Inhale, take it back. It's quality over quantity, so keep going. I want you to really be able to coordinate breath with movement here. Notice when we exhale, we kind of round that lower back, the pelvis moves into a posterior tilt, and the pelvic floor shortens. Inhale, take it back. Exhale, take it in. All right, we're going to end up with that right leg extended behind, crossing to the left, toes come to the floor, and then we'll just press into the right outer hip. So you can feel the hips press a little bit to the right, and just feel that nice little stretch through the right side body. One more thing right here. Take that right foot, bring it behind the left. Left foot's going to come out like a little kickstand, and we're going to roll onto this left hand. Right hip's going to lift up to the sky. Now we're in a version of side plank. That right arm may go up. It may just rest alongside of you. See what feels best. And then you can even make some circles here with this right arm if you're into that today. Make sure this lower arm is intentionally connecting to the ground. So we've got full connection through the ball of that first finger. Pressing the floor away, shoulder blade is connected to the back. We don't want to forget about all of that stability. And then we'll come back to center. Why don't we slip those hips back for a child's pose? Take a breath right here. Notice if the breath feels short, just in the chest, like if you're not getting it low in the body. See if you can relax any tension around the breath. There isn't really a getting it right. I just want you to experience it deeply. Okay, come on back here to this hands and knees position. Let's take that left leg and send it back. We're going to watch that left hip because it wants to fly up to the sky. So we're going to try to keep the hips flat across the back. Reaching, pressing that floor away. Feel the chest muscles start to turn on. Make sure the neck isn't pinched and that you feel like plenty of extension. It might look like even bringing the chin just a little bit closer to the chest. So the crown of the head feels like it's lengthening forward. And then we'll zip up the belly, draw that navel center up and in like you're gonna tighten your belt. And then exhale, left knee draws towards the forehead. And you can really round the spine just like we did in our cat-cow. Inhale, take it back. Now right here, moving with the breath. Exhale as you draw it in. You're squeezing the air out. You're shortening the pelvic floor in that posterior pelvic tilt. In breath, the pelvic floor widens, the lungs can widen, the spine lengthens into extension. Exhale, draw it in. Your pacing might look a little different than mine. That's no problem, of course. Okay, end up with that leg behind you, cross it to the right, bring the toes to the floor. This is just a nice little outer hip stretch. So see if you can just gently press into that left hip. Big breaths right there. And just direct that inhale right into the stretch. All right, we're gonna take that left foot and bring it right behind the right foot. Right foot's gonna come behind like a little kickstand. Remember, appropriately prop yourself on this right arm. So get that shoulder connected to the back, press the floor away, and then let that left hip tip up. Left shoulder, left arm can follow, head can follow, and then breathe back. Fill up that back body with breath. See if you want to take that left arm overhead, maybe even make some circles, one or both directions. They can be your full range of motion, they can be a little less. Make sure you're not ignoring any messages from the body. And then we'll come on back to neutral. Left knee comes down. And then here, we're gonna tuck the toes underneath, press the floor away, hover those knees. And then from this position, get ready for downward facing dog. Now don't focus on the knees. I want you to focus on pulling the hips back, pressing the floor forward and away. So those arms are nice and long. The hands are fully connected to the ground. So even spread those fingers. Let that neck grow nice and long. And then before we focus on the legs, I want you to really feel that the pelvis is reaching way back, way up and back. The thigh bones are moving away. So thigh bones are drawing back. And it's first about the spine, second about the legs. So how can we create more space through the spine right here? See if you can hug that tummy up and in. Hug the front of the ribs up and in, and really let the back body fill up with breath. Neck is nice and long. Couple more breaths right here. It's okay to rest if you need to. Okay, get ready for plank pose. Shift your shoulder weight forward. So if you need to walk the hands a little forward, go ahead. Check in with the wrists. See if you need to come onto fists or forearms. You're welcome to do that. Or also you can bring the knees down. All is welcome. So let that back body fill with breath. See how you can hug the front body up and in to support that strength and opening through the back body. Breathing deeply. And then let's take those knees down. Make sure the shoulder blades are nice and connected to the back, even as we lower. See, they want to lift off. And I sometimes even do that, but I want you to be really aware, just so that the arms feel nice and plugged in. Lift, tummy lifts. Exhale, bend the elbows straight back. Come all the way down onto your belly. Toenails on the ground. Inhale, let's go on up to cobra. So hip bones are going to press into the floor. You're going to reach that tailbone back, legs go way back, and then chest, neck, and head lift forward. Make sure you're not pushing your navel center into the mat in order to create this lift. I want you to actually lift your tummy up and in, so the strength is happening through the back muscles, even some through the buttocks. And you're growing and lengthening that spine forward as you lift. And then exhale, come on down, hands and knees, child's pose. Couple of breaths right here. And with child's pose, you know you can keep the knees together, or you can take the knees a little bit wider and the big toes together. It just depends on what is feeling best for you today. All right, meet me up here at hands and knees. We're gonna pass through center and come onto our backs. We're gonna work a little more specifically with core strengthening. So come on down onto your back. Knees can stay bent, feet are flat on the floor. We're gonna walk the feet out so the knees are at roughly a 90-degree bend. And just for fun, I'll have you lift your toes off the ground. So the arms are gonna come alongside. We're gonna firm the heels into the floor. So that's gonna immediately start to turn the muscles on the back of the legs on. Feel the heels even drawing towards you, and then make sure those shoulders are kind of tucked underneath of themselves. And just very slowly, and you don't have to go high, reach the pelvis forward as you lift. Breathe. You can go a little higher with the hips, but you don't have to. Keep breathing. And then come on down. And then just let those feet relax. Knees can fall together, hips can relax. So notice the contrast. When we're working, we're asserting our energy and building that heat and that fire in the body. And then we take a moment to turn it off so we can integrate and sense and feel. We can really get to know how each pose affects the body. All right, so knees are going to be about 90 degrees again. And we're going to focus in here on the pelvis, because what we're going to try to do is keep our neutral in terms of pelvic tilt. So we want our pelvis to be in a relatively neutral position and still assert our core strength. So if we're not in neutral, then the lower back is going to be flat on the floor, or we're going to have a really deep curve in the lower back. So in neutral, we are kind of right in between, where we have a curve through the lower back, but it's not overly accentuated. We can still feel the back of the ribs on the ground, and we can feel some weight moving into the sacrum. So with this healthy neutral position, and you're going to have to kind of explore with your body to find it, and it might take a little bit more time than right now, and that's okay. But try to find that middle of the sacrum, which is that bone that sits at the very bottom of the spine, right at the flat part of the lower back. Let the weight rest right towards the middle. Just imagine that it's going to. It's almost like a diamond shape. Imagine that it's right there in the middle of that diamond shape. And then we're going to bring the knees in alignment with each hip. Knees are about 90-degree bend. Arms are going to be alongside. So feel here, we're going to just a little, we're going to engage that pelvic floor. So I'm going to have you, especially if you tend towards a deeper curve in your lower back like I do, we're gonna reach our tailbone a little bit further forward, but I don't want you to flatten your lower back to the floor totally. I just want you to reach it a little bit forward and then squeeze that perineum. So tighten that pelvic floor, not in a clinchy way, just in a way that's turning that muscle on. Lower abdominals are going to turn on as well, and then we'll lift that right knee right over the hip, shin to tabletop, left knee follows. So yeah, you can feel that core strength, and then we'll lower right and lower left. Now this is a strengthening exercise. Left lifts, right follows, lower left, lower right. Notice if you drop the muscles through the pelvic floor, keep going. Notice if you drop the muscles through the pelvic floor and see if you can intentionally engage them. So lifting one leg and then the next, and then lowering. And then take a rest right here. Feet can come to the floor, kneecaps can fall together, lower back can completely relax. Hopefully you're feeling some sensation through these deep abdominal muscles in the pelvis, maybe even down in the pelvic floor. But we're not working them right now, so see if you can intentionally relax them and just observe very subtle sensation of turning these muscles on and off. Now, if you're experiencing any pain in the pelvic floor at this point, I would prefer that you just go into a deep relaxation, because we might be exacerbating muscles that are already tense or irritated. So if you're feeling pain, take triple the amount of time relaxing, and we need to do some more stretching, which we'll be doing in another video. All right, we're going to try both legs at the same time, so keeping the pelvis in neutral if you can, and then especially for people like me who have a deeper curve in the lower back, reach the tailbone a little bit forward towards the heels, draw that pelvic floor up and in, everybody, and then we're going to lift the knees right up over the hips together and then lower. This is not something to rush through. This is something to try to feel all of the moving parts. We're training the pelvic floor and the deep abdominal muscles to work together. And then go ahead and relax from here. Let that lower back completely relax. Feet and legs completely relax. We're going to draw that right knee in towards the right shoulder. Wrap the hands around the right shin or behind the knee, and right there on the thigh is good too. Whatever you like better. And then take that right leg and cross it over the left. We'll send the arms out to the sides, turn the legs over to the left.
Pause right here, don't move, don't look at me. The camera is about to die.
Okay.
So wrap it up, please. So we have a video to post.
Sure.
Okay.
And maybe even follow here, turn that gaze to the right. Inhale, unwind. Uncross that right leg, take the left knee towards the left shoulder, give it a little hug. Try to breathe all the way down into the pelvic floor, and then take that left leg across. We're going to let those knees fall over to the right side. Head can turn left. And then we'll unwind from here. Uncross that leg and take a deep relaxation position of your choice for as long as you'd like, with special emphasis on letting the pelvic floor muscles completely soften.